Hey guys, this is M4T and I'll be reviewing the Kamerar SD-1 Mark II slider dolly on this episode of On the Sea. I remember when I first studied the continuous crane shot from Touch of Evil by Orson Welles, and I remember how masterful a director you had to be to control the people and the pacing, but also the kind of equipment you would have needed to pull off that kind of shot. While there's a time and place for shaky cam aesthetics, some of the more cinematic looks in film require a smoother, more predictable line of camera movement. So you have your dollies, your jibs, your stabilizers, your sliders, and now we even have drones. These are all pretty expensive gear, but maybe not so much in the context of filmmaking equipment in general, but it is enough to kind of limit the creative abilities of maybe an amateur startup or, just an indie filmmaker. Some slightly more affordable assist tools include the wheel dolly and the slider. Fortunately, these are some of the more commonly used tools, so I would definitely start there if you're looking to expand your creative limits. So I present to you the Kamerar SD-1 Mark II slider dolly. I got this for $135 at Henry's, some assembly required. Now, I don't know if everything is as it should be. For example, I only got 3 out of 4 of these little pegs at the bottom here. And so, I don't know if that was intentional or an accident. I'm guessing it's an accident. There's no reason to have just 3 of these little peg things. And as also, looking at the holes here, this one has a thread, but this one here doesn't have a thread. So you just take a close look. And so I'm not sure that everything is as it should be. So keep in mind I'm somewhat sour grapes about that. So first let's talk about this thing as a wheeled dolly. So these wheels, they're kind of just the same as something like a rollerblade, and these are from more custom dollies that I used to have. And it's good for smooth surfaces. It's not so good for rocky terrain. You're gonna get bumps and it's not gonna be very smooth, but not like you'd want. You'd probably have to stabilize it afterwards, and even then that's gonna be quite a chore. Also, this thing doesn't work very well on carpets because these little pegs here, they actually have very little clearance. So when you're in a soft surface, it kind of just digs into the ground and you can't get any smooth movement. And so I would just totally remove those if you can. If you do want to use them on carpet, if you have no choice but to use it on a softer surface, maybe like a bed or something. So a wheeled dolly is a relatively inexpensive thing to make. For a couple of bucks, you can go to the thrift shop and pick up roller skates so you can unscrew and you could have 8 wheels. If you bought these wheels on their own, they're like $15. But if you make one yourself with some PVC pipe, and basically for a few bucks you can have yourself a wheeled dolly just by working out of your garage with a drill and some little screwdrivers. The wheels in the SD-1 are basically just a bonus, you have something that works, it's detachable, you can put it on, and it's really sturdy. It's more sturdy than you could probably make on your own. The only problem I can see with this thing is that the whole unit is actually extremely long, which makes it not very good for cornering, and also it gets in the way a lot if you're working in tight spaces. So the slider is the real draw of this device. The foundation of motion pictures is moving images, so whether it's it's a slider or a dolly or some kind of crane, having that smooth shot is just really something that will help bring out that cinematic look in your film. So the primary slider has these 4 nylon rollers which really give it a smooth glide along the main slider. It's really good for just getting that smooth feel. It's not too much friction, and also you have this little knob here which you can tighten in order to restrict the movement or to kind of give it some resistance. I would advise investing in some kind of Arca Swiss plates in order to put on this clamp so that when you're attaching a camera to it, you won't have to unscrew this whole thing and move the wheels and to get the camera onto this plate. So the slider itself can be a bit heavy. I'm actually struggling to hold it up right now. It's not so heavy that I can't do it, but I'm just saying that if you're gonna put this on a tripod, you have to make sure that your tripod can support the weight of your camera, and if you're gonna use a gimbal on top of this, or if you're gonna add a monopod and kind of like move this along the ground, you have to make sure it can support the weight. This thing on its own, I think it can support maybe like 6 pounds, I'm not really sure. But I know that on a tripod, a single tripod, that if you clamp it into the bottom and try to move this slider, you're gonna get some wobble. That's gonna happen. You hold it on the center point, and as you can see, it wobbles left and right. Same thing happens on a tripod if you don't have a wider clamp on the bottom, or if it's not really, really tight, and I mean really, really tight. If you're in a situation where you have the time to bring all your equipment with you and you have that kind of flexibility, then I would recommend actually using 2 tripods or maybe even an extension arm. They actually create extension arms for tripods now, so that you can stabilize the slider from 2 sides so that when you're sliding, there won't be any movement. In fact, there's some positions where if you're holding up the slider like this, it might be better to actually have 2 tripods so that it's less likely to tip over on a single tripod. Even if you have a really good tripod that can hold up a lot of weight and won't budge in terms of its neck, you will still have problems with overall balance because the fulcrum is going to be at one center, so your whole tripod could actually tip over, especially if you're up here. As you can see, the weight on the bottom end is now pulling a lot more. So it's good to have 2 tripods if you can manage. So how does it perform? Here is the wheel dolly in action. And here again is the slider in action. So my verdict on the wheel dolly function of this is it's actually pretty good. I like the fact that you can adjust the wheels, so you can actually create curves using this thing. And you know, I'm not sure if Kamerar offers replacement wheels, but you might want to consider that before using it on rough surfaces. As I said before, it's not very smooth on rough surfaces, you know, like a kind of gravel or something like that. And of course, you don't want to damage this thing in the long term, so you want to make sure that they actually have some kind of replacement wheels or that you can get replacement wheels. Other than that, the wheel dolly is a really nice addition, and just keep in mind the environment you're going to be using it in. Of course, in the past I've been spoiled by using the wheel dolly on rails. Not on this device, on another device, custom made device, but on this thing the slider actually works really well, and I'm pretty impressed by it actually. And for me, I think that this is probably the most used function most people are going to use it for. It's not going to be you're not going to be in a lot of situations where you can use the wheels. And of course, if you're on rocky terrain, you will want to use the slider and mount this thing on something. You can hang it. If you can also use these little pits here, which are little wheels which you can attach cables to, and that will allow you to pull at a consistent rate or just with your hands. So in conclusion, the SD-1 Mark II slider is actually a really nice device. It comes for pretty cheap. You can probably get it on sale. If you do buy it full price, I think it's justified. Although, as you heard earlier, I didn't get everything that was supposed to come with it, and also I'm suspect that it's not actually as it should be for holes like this. But otherwise, it's actually a great slider. It works really well. I've used it a few times. I do plan to use it a lot more in kind of like upcoming testing. But yeah, you don't always have a crew to create stuff for you, and so it's nice to have your own gear. So thank you for watching M4T. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. And lastly, tell me how you really feel in the comments. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.